changed. And so we thought we would do a 15-minute vignette every week, replace the luncheon hour, so you get more little ones on a more regular basis. That hasn't worked either. So this is our first official re-implementation of luncheon hour, so as of today. So we welcome you here. And I would like to get some feedback from you guys that are attending today. Bert, have you missed coming to luncheon hour?
I didn't know that they didn't exist.
Yeah.
As you know, I've come to quite a
kind of validate just what I was just saying.
But my position within the company has changed, so I haven't been coming. I've usually sent someone else if we come at all.
Right.
But I wanted to make sure I'm here.
Good feedback. Dave, you guys are regular.
You offer me lunch, I'm always here.
Okay.
I don't know. No, it's, it's just, sometimes it's hard because you're busy, but,
yeah.
Really, you're efficient, set the time to get something accomplished, and, everybody doesn't need everything all the time, but I find them good.
Well,
I try to attend quite a few.
Just meeting, this is a user group as well, so we try and facilitate as a user group environment so you guys can communicate with each other. Good feedback.
Some feedback that I've received from a couple of people that have come from my company is they feel like when they come to these, they're too generalized for them to get in. Some respects, I understand where they're coming from, but I find it beneficial every time I come. I usually find one thing at least that I can take back and say, all right, I'm better now than I was yesterday because of this one thing. But
yeah,
that's the feedback.
Well, sometimes it is just one thing. I'll show you one thing today that'll really excite you, and it's just one thing. You had your hand up back there? Okay. Well, let's do this. Let's take a couple minutes, and we'll start here with Jeff from Chalky. What I want you to do is just give them your first name. We'll introduce each other. Your company, and what your company does. You can actually tell them what you do as well, but what your company does. And we'll start here, move here, we'll just move back. Sure.
Stand, sit.
Stand, sit.
All right. My name's Jeff. I'm with Washington Renewable Energy, United Fuel Supply, etc. I've been there. I am coming up on 3 months. I've been using Great Plains for a number of years. But only specific aspects of it, so I'm learning the other aspects of it, so I can do that. They essentially take soy and corn oil, various other products, and create biodiesel.
Where is your plant located? Is it in Washington? Where is it?
Plant is in Plymouth.
Up on the
5 miles south of the Idaho border.
Our corporate office is just up the road, 39 South 7 East.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Very interesting. Conglomerate. Rachel told me at one time she's going to have 85 companies by the end of this year.
There's a lot going on.
85 inside of GP. Wes, go ahead.
My name is Wes Clark. I'm controller of Central Utah Clinic. And I go about 200 physicians and all the
23 clinics? How many do you have total?
I've lost count. We produce about 600 financial statements every month.
Wow. Yeah, great.
Related to all
Central Utah Medical. It used to be called clinics, but it's just Central Utah Medical.
Central Utah Clinic.
Clinics, okay. Mary.
I'm Mary Onzer. I'm with National Benefit Services. We are a third-party administrator. We provide services like 401k, 403b, COBRA administration, tax carry plans, flexible spending, self-savings accounts, like that.
And we use them, and they are great. My funds are with them, and I'm so happy to have my funds with them. They do an incredibly good job. Not as a plug, but it's absolutely.
Thank you.
Dave, go ahead.
Dave Vandegraff, and we're Wasatch Integrated Waste Management District, we're a special district, Wasatch Governmental Entity in Davis County, Morgan. We run the waste management plant and use national benefits. So
I recognize the names.
Yeah.
Much of those guys are.
Yeah.
Yep.
We've been on Great Plains
Years. Yeah. Adam.
I'm Adam. I'm an accountant, and I work with Dave.
There you go. Thank you. Looking back to, I'm Jeff. I work for College America, St. Seneca College. We do online education for students, specializing in accounting and controller. We've been with TP just a few months. We're learning. Right.
Brett Simpson back with Untitled Services. We're in the real estate industry, so if you buy or sell or build, you come to our place, sign one of your documents. And we just converted to GP from Solomon this year. So October was our first month.
There you go. Thank you. Appreciate that.
I'm John Edwards. I'm with Wavetronics. I'm a senior accountant. We build intelligent traffic systems. When you're a stoplight, you'll see a small white box at the light post. That's our technology. We set radar routes, when you're coming, going, we regulate the light control, and it saves lives. We take away your decision to run your own light.
Can I expand on that?
Yeah.
You mentioned something safety-wise, which is really cool. That little beam will detect a semi coming through. And if it sees a huge object, instead of flipping the line to red, it'll keep it green so the truck can go through. So it's safe from that standpoint, but also it saves on energy.
Yeah. And so what we do is we take, it's called a dilemma zone. You're cruising down the road and it's an off hour, light pops yellow, you say, I can make it. Or you'll make it. So we take that city away from you, and we save lives. And we're in Singapore, France, China, all the United States. So
Thanks, appreciate it.
My name is Bert Bowen. I'm with Stratton Cells. We deal with bakery equipment, and we've been using GP for 2 or 3 years.
Great. Travis?
Travis Thompson, Atlas Management Services, for the accounting arm for all the recognized healthcare facilities. We've been on Dynamics for years.
Years, probably been 18, almost 20 years now. Yep. Young lady.
I'm Dawn Brown, new. I'm from Newmont University.
Okay.
Our company is a school for computer science degrees. Colleagues. I've only been with the company 3 months, so I'm an accounting manager, and year-end coming up, and I've never worked on Great Plains until I came to Newmont.
Okay, great. I actually have an association with Graham Doxey, who actually created years ago. He's over in Singapore right now, creating a college over there. So,
yes, I'm Aaron, and I work at multiple laboratories, assessment devices,
and let's see, one other one just popped. Oh, 2. You want to introduce yourselves real quick?
Yeah, I'm Blake Byer. We work with Broadway Media. We operate 6 radio stations in Salt Lake, and then we do a few other smaller media businesses.
Tell them who you operate so they can listen.
Yeah, X96, 92, 179, 115, the Eagle, ESPN 700, and Rewind 120.
You got a beautiful office on Broadway.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thanks for coming today.
I'm Kyle Kerrigan.
Okay, great. Will you guys stick around for a few minutes about tomorrow's meeting?
Yeah.
I think that covers it all. Thank you for coming, and we do have a couple more people that are online as well. So, are those online? Can they hear okay? Can you just let us know? And just go ahead and put in your, we're going to have to mute you here on this end, but we'll start the session now. Okay. This is our 2014 year-end lunch and learn. There's a lot of information in this. I prepared slides for you, and that's for your note-taking, but when we're all said and done, I have your email addresses in our CRM system, and we will send you all an electronic copy of this, because there's a lot of hyperlinks inside of the presentation that you can get, and you can go right to what you need to do to learn more about year-end close. So, let's go ahead, and we've done the welcome. Stuart is also here to assist today. He's our moderator. I think most of you know him as a consultant here. He and I are going to be doing this session today. So, before we get started, I like to ask the group, is there any specific thing that you want to see today? that you have on your mind that you came to this meeting to ask?
I came here to make sure that what I've been doing for the last 2 years is the way it should be done.
Okay.
Confirmation is what I'm looking for.
So Bert reports he's coming to confirm that what he's been doing for the last 2 years is actually what he should be doing, and that's great. Anything else? Yes.
I just sent with a question from John Jackson. Deals with our RMAs.
Okay.
With the RMAs at year end, how's that going to transfer to the inventory?
You know what? We'll take that one offline. And that one, I think you're the only one that I know of that uses RMA. And that's why I'll take it offline, and we'll discuss that. Nobody else uses RMA here, right? Returns materials authorization. Yeah, we'll take that one. Okay. All right, let's just jump in. So the order that you see in this screen is the order you close Great Plains. We start with inventory, then you move over to receivables, payables, fixed assets. Nobody in here is using analytical accounting, but in your slide, I've got one slide in there. There's a couple of not-for-profits that use analytical accounting, and so we'll talk about that in regard to the general ledger. So that is specifically the order you close your system. So a couple of things to note here. There's a lot of information in each slide, and I was just going to bullet these across and not talk about them in global. But the reason I wanted to bullet it so we could focus on exactly what we're talking about. But I think, you know, it's just kind of, it was too much. So who is on GP10? Okay. What I'm going to tell you is really, really important. Right now, GP10 is not supported by Microsoft anymore. So we need to get you guys upgraded to the latest and greatest version. And what I mean by support, they support it, but you won't get any updates, you know, service packs. The typical MO for Microsoft is to support a older version that has been taken out for 5 years. They will continue to support it at Microsoft's help desk. But so when I say it's not supported, that's what I'm saying. GP 2010, I think, who's on 2010? Now wait a minute, you raised your hand, you said you're on 10.
You said 2010. You said 2010.
Did I say 2010?
Yeah,
oh, I apologize. Okay, so 2010 includes up to Service Pack 4, and Microsoft will take that one into the non-support arena in November of 2015. So by doing so, no more updates, of course, will be coming for GP 2010. 2013, we just released Service Pack 2, and maybe you don't know this, but Service Pack 2 came out with a ton of additional enhancements. One I'm going to show you today, and hopefully it'll be the big bang one. You know which one I'm talking about. I want to make sure I got to write something down here so I don't forget, but I want to do this one. Okay. Because even though it's a tiny little thing, it makes your life much, much better. So release dates for 2014 year end, end of November 2014, we will have a service pack that will come out. We'll have everything, and all of the service packs are inclusive. So if you skip 2 or 3 somewhere along the way, the latest service pack will give you everything. And then the 2015 tax update for round 1 is targeted for December 19th. So who runs payroll here? Okay, this you need to be aware of. So, and then they'll have the round 2 2015 tax payroll update will be mid-January 2015, which is typically what we do. All right. Yeah, 1095, 1094. Yeah, we just spent, all of our consultants spent almost a week training 2 weeks ago on all this with the ACA. And I don't call it the Affordable Care Act anymore. It's the Unaffordable Care Act, but whatever it is, it's ACA. I was amazed at the stuff we have to do now to report our employee counts and so forth. It's just overwhelming. GP 2015 will be released to market in December of 2014. We haven't even seen 2015 yet. So this is just a comment. We don't typically recommend putting a new version on in January because of all your month-end, year-end, flipping it over, opening up a new year. But if somebody wants it, Terry's ready to go. I mean, she'll do it if you want. But I would probably try to schedule with Terry an upgrade sometime in February, March. That'll give us a chance to get it on our system and, you know, look at all of what's new and get, you know, up to speed on that. So just information there. I mentioned this already, 2010. This is the last year that the year-end update is going to be available. And for this, the reason they're doing this is with the ACA, with 1094s, 1095s, and all that reporting, Microsoft didn't want to go back into the older versions and do all of the changes necessary to adhere to the ACA laws. So they're just going to make it available for the 2013 forward solution and then 2015. So mainstream support for tax updates will end 10/13/2015, and then extended support with no updates will end. And I mentioned it's always 5 years. So that's most of you in this room right now. Okay, when we are getting ready to do an update, year-end update, we always, what's the first word we do? Raise a hand. What's that?
Backup.
Backup. Yep. I'm not going to bore you with saying we want you to do a backup on every single process here. But just globally, last year we said every section we went into, we said be sure to back up. Globally, every time you get ready, when you go from inventory to payables to receivables to GL, after you get through that process, just back it up. So if anything happens in that next step, you can always restore from that point forward. Just a nice safety thing. That being said, that's the cover the backside comment. I've seen people just do their year end and go right through and never do backups. They just do it. Okay. There is a process here of when you have these modified reports inside GP, when you upgrade, for instance, you will like to export those out and go through the customization maintenance. Do you want to share anything in that regard, Stuart, on exporting the reports out and then re-importing them after the upgrade?
Well, it's just important to have a backup of your changed reports, because if something happens, we need to be able to go that. So I do a backup regularly of that.
Yeah.
Set and keep it somewhere.
Okay, so what most people do, they just contact Terry Armstrong. That's her job. She will come out and she will help you do your year-end if you want her to. Any questions? There's a slide at the end of this presentation that has all the contact information in that. So Terry Armstrong or Sharon Quilter. So again, here's your order: inventory, receivables, payables, fixed assets if you're doing that, AA, and then general ledger. So when should the close be done? Is anybody on a fiscal year that's not a calendar year here? You guys? Okay. So it's a fiscal year. It's not a, yeah. So before any new transactions to affect inventory quantities are posted, what does year-end close process do? And really, I'm not going to go through every single one of these things. Just know that it's transferring information from this bucket into a new bucket, so that when you're doing any kind of reporting, we've got historical inventory trial balance information. It's doing all the processes necessary to move the information from the current year into the historical years. In every situation, that's what it's doing. So in this case here, it transfers all summarized current year quantities, cost of sales to last year for the items which you have kept summarized in sales history. And then it'll update each item's beginning quantity from the quantity on hand at each site. Zero is a quantity sold field in the item's quantity and gives you the option to remove discontinued items and sold receipts and so forth. So it's just kind of it's a database cleanup process that goes on there. Then what steps should be taken to close? Enter and post all your purchase order processing, invoicing, sales orders, and inventory. Now, from a standpoint of doing that, why do you want to do that? Why do you want to have to get into all these separate modules and post? Any thoughts?
They all affect inventory.
They all affect inventory. Absolutely. You got open sales orders. inventory items on it, they all affect inventory. You don't have to worry about it because you're not dealing with it. But anyway, so if you choose to do so, I put, let me go back here, previous. I added hyperlinks inside your PowerPoint. So again, when you get this electronically, just click into it. It'll actually take you out to this website that Microsoft has set up for all these, and it will give you more details as to what you need to do in each and every step. Okay, it's literally documented here.
First time in, you'll probably have to log in with your customer account. So if you don't know what that is, you want to find that out, because that
brings up a good point. By a raise of hands, who has been in customer source? Oh my goodness. That's not good. Okay. The reason I say it's not good, customer source is an immense wealth of information at your fingertips. And getting back to Stuart's comment, if you haven't been in customer source, typically we send you an email, we invite you to customer source, and then you click on the hyperlink and it sets your password and your login authorization to access customer source. And sometimes it's a little bit of a pain. And the reason for that is your Live ID, Windows Live ID, isn't connected in the right way. So if you have any concern about that, if you'll just reach out to me, I will walk you through that process. If I have to send an email to you again to remind you, a lot of people, the email comes from Microsoft, and it used to come from Microsoft Voice, and it would say voice@microsoft.com, and it ended up in your spam folder, and people didn't see it. So if you haven't been in customer source, then we need to get you set up so you can get in there.
Those of you who are new will probably need to make contact unless someone in your organization has the voice access.
You had a question? Just contact me. That's one of my roles. There's no cost for doing that. And at the end of the slide, I'll put my address up there, and you can take a look at that. Good question. So the question was, for those that are online, who do we contact? It's Rob Gillespie, and I'll show my information at the end of the session. So we'll get out of this. So go to the next one. Make restore backups. We talked about this. Reconcile order, stop, pop, and then inventory. So when I say reconcile here, this is the GP reconcile. Okay, I've got GP up just so you understand the difference. There's a tool setup, utilities, and actually it's routines, and reconcile.
Go to inventory.
Inventory, and it's not there. It's a utility. Inventory, and it's reconcile. Yeah. So when I say reconcile, there's two different types of reconciles. This is the first one, where you're running the reconcile. So it goes out through the tables and reconciles your inventory, and it gives you a list if there's any out-of-balance situations here. So you'd run that. And sometimes that reconcile could take, how long? Large database
can take overnight.
it really does a lot of work. So that's the first one. And then there's another reconcile that you can do. And you know what? I forgot my glasses. Has anybody used the reconcile to GL inside of GP? One person here. Okay. Reconcile to the general ledger. It's this little tool here. So you go in and click it, and you'll notice here on this reconcile, it reconciles 4 things. And with your Service Pack 2 that just came out in the summer, they added inventory and bank rec. It used to be we just had payables and receivables. So you'll run your reconcile, you just choose it, and you'll run it. You just hit process. And so it creates an Excel spreadsheet, and it shows up what should be in the inventory and transactions in the general ledger. Let me run one for, I'll give you a better example here for reconcile on your payables and receivables, because most of you are using payables and receivables. Let's just do receivables and run that reconcile. So has anybody ever gone into the general ledger and said, oops, my general ledger control account doesn't match my aging? Well, there's reasons for that. Most of the time is people haven't clicked in the general ledger, do not allow posting in this control account. And I'll show you that in a minute. So a journal entry's gone into a control account. That gets you out of balance between the GL and the subledger. So here's your receivable transactions. It shows unmatched, potentially matched, and matched. So all at the end of the day, it literally gives you a report pointing you directly to the transaction that has created the out of balance scenario. So there's the two different reconciles. And so back to the PowerPoint here. Then we talked about run your reconciliation process, and we just did that.
How often would you reconcile the GL or reconcile the inventory and all that?
Okay. You know what? That's a good question. And what I would recommend is do it every month.
Yeah,
Do it every week.
It's actually scheduled to be done every month as part of your closing of the month. You don't necessarily do a closing of the transactions like you do at year end, but it's meant to do every month so you can see what's happened. And lots of times something will happen in the posting process where only part of the transaction gets posted, and you find those in that.
It's really easy to find one or two transactions that is to go through thousands. Let's put it that way. So I actually have a client that reconciles their bank account every single day, and sometimes twice a day, because they write a lot of checks. And so, you know, these e-bank rec processes are so easy to do. Sometimes it literally takes 1 or 2 minutes, if that. And so why wait till the end of the month? Do it anytime. Okay, I was going to say something about fixed assets, but I'll save that for when we get into fixed assets. Now, I mentioned one way to control somebody making a mess. And by the way, Travis, you guys, we have 3 chairs up here if you want to get closer. You want to move up? You're okay back there? Okay, because I can't see that far back. So. All right, so this is what I was mentioning a few minutes ago. For your control accounts, do not have this check, allow account entry. Okay? For the accounts payable control, for your accounts receivable control, do not allow people to come in and make a journal entry. Just unclick that. That'll save a lot of hard.
Does that only affect manual journal entries, or can they still go in and put in an invoice through Payables and use that account?
That's a good question. And so for those that are online, the question is, does that only affect manual journal entries? The answer to the question is yes, it only affects manual journal entries. So let's just say you had $1 million control balance in your accounts receivable, and that matched your aging when you ran your aging, and somebody comes in and makes an adjustment for, you know, a couple $100,000, you're going to be out of balance. If you do it with a journal entry, you always want to make a transaction in the subledger, not at the general ledger level.
So the only way to completely inactivate an account is use the inactive
account. Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. So the question for those that are online, the only way to inactivate account is you literally click the inactive here. And then you cannot even make a journal entry transaction into that account. Okay? All right. So in your handout, each one of these, again, has a hyperlink. I won't click into each one of these because I just did it a few minutes ago. And you can get more information in much more detail. And frankly, we do this to enable you at like 10 o'clock at night when you're doing your close, off hours and so forth, to do this without having to call a consultant. We're giving you the tools to do this. Okay, so these are knowledge base. KB stands for knowledge base. And there are people that inventory accidentally closed twice. How do you fix it? You know, information about the order in which the reconcile procedure should be run in Microsoft. You know, it's just more detailed information. There you go. Okay, we're going to flip over. Any questions on inventory before we go on to the next section? Okay. When should this be done? Calendar year and fiscal year for receivables. Again, we've got 2 closes. And so the calendar year and, of course, the fiscal year at the end of it. And I think basically there's only a couple here that raised their hands that you had a fiscal year there. Different process. Same process, but just different on what it does. The calendar year end closes the year-to-date finance charges. And let me just ask you a quick question. Is anybody using the procedure in GC called generate finance charges? You do it. You stop doing it.
They're doing it.
MBS does that. It just takes a couple of seconds to do, literally. And then it generates a report that you can see who's getting charged and how much. Now, I have an opinion about running finance charges, and this is just Rob Gillespie's humble opinion. I think you should do it. Okay, I've had other companies say, well, we don't want to torque our customer off and make them unhappy. If you set out a notice that you're going to start charging, you will be amazed at how quickly your AR balance goes down. Your AR days goes down. Because if you aren't charging finance charge, your customers are using you as their bank. That's my humble opinion. And so it's actually another really positive feature about charging finance charge. If you have a finance charge on the account and you call up a customer and say, by the way, you owe me this amount of money, but if you'll send it to me today, I'll write off the finance charge, or I'll split the finance charge. It's leverage, it's negotiation. And to this day, I don't know of anybody that really has had problems running finance charges. Would you like me to just show you where you do that in GP? It's a routine. Okay, we'll flip over. So it's a routine. And it's a routine, it's under sales. And you will do, actually, up, there you go, right there. You just run finance charges. And in the screen, it gives you an option to run by the customer ID, everybody. But when you do this, you can restrict the customer IDs, and you can restrict it by name and by type, okay? So then you can age all or open items or balance forward. Most people are open item invoice now. So you just run it. And when you run the aging, I'll just leave it all, process. Actually, it's not an aging. This is just a finance charge. And that's fine. So it doesn't do anything to your accounts receivable at this point. All it's doing is saying this particular customer, oh, by the way, you can have a different finance charge rate per customer if you choose to do so. It's at the customer level card level, customer card level. And so in my default here, here's my past due balance. So if I hit the finance charge of $877, then I get my edit listing, and then I can just review it. I can go back through the batch that this is sitting in when I get ready to post, and I can actually remove it. I can take it out. I don't have to do this globally for everybody. But here's my case in point. This customer owes you $58,000, and there's $877 sitting there. David, is that leverage? If I can get the guy to send me $58 grand, I'll write off the $877? It's just a good thing to do. So again, that's my humble opinion. Very easy. This runs the finance charge detail report. It'll be in a batch called Receivables Management Finance Charge 1000. You fill out the batch, edit it, remove it, change the amounts, whatever you want, and then you just post it. And that just goes straight to accounts receivable on their account. Mary, you use it. Am I right?
Yeah, it's easy.
It's easy. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and you can decide what aging bucket you want to start applying the finance charges to, if you want to start applying them at current or 30 days or 60 days or whatever.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of flexibility in running that. So.
It's a quick little process.
All right.
Hey, Ron, can you hop back over to GP for a second, go into that window?
The one I was just in?
So I haven't been using GP for very long, so
Oops.
I just have a general question on this window. The ribbon on the top of most of the windows looks the same. What is File and Tools ever used for?
Okay, for those that are online, Brett brings up a good question. This is GP 2013 R2. When he's asking, what does the ribbon mean when it says File or Tools? We're going to cover that right now. So if you go into any screen, I'm going to step back a little bit further. This is something that you can take home. This is one of those, gotcha, this is a great idea. In your system, whenever you're in a screen, this is the new ribbon. I like it because, frankly, I'm getting a little older and I can't see the little teeny text. So is that a good idea to make it bigger? Yeah, I think it is. So now your issue is File, Add to Shortcuts, or Close. That's all that's there. But Add to Shortcuts is huge because right now, if I go to my home, if I hit, let's just say it says assess finance charges, I'm going to add to my shortcuts. So if I come over here to my home page, assess finance charges is there. So rather than going, you know, Microsoft, tools, routine, sales, 4 clicks, I can go here and right click and say shortcut properties, and I can just hit F2. So F2 will get me where I need to go. Not only that, so I can come here and then I can take this and I can just move it up to the top. And if you'll notice my my list here, where did I put my assess? Right there. I've got these all in alphabetic order. And the reason I do that is it just makes it easy for me to do demos, first of all. And second of all, it's just logical order. So it's all, if I'm running assessing finance charges, I know exactly where to go. And then FN, F2 will get me right where I need to go. Make sense? Does that answer your question? Partially?
What tools do?
Okay, tools. On every single screen, you can go from the tool and you can go to the report writer and you can go to modifier. Everybody that's P2010 or above, I'm sorry, 2013 and above, now has included the GP Microsoft Dynamics modifier tool, which used to cost $5 grand. It's now included with your system. So let me just, so tools integrate, you can run integration manager here, you can run macros from here. Resource description shows tables, the table descriptions and the fields. So they're just tools to help you do your job better. Now there's another part of that question, Brett. Let me expand upon that. If I go to user preferences inside of the system, right here, with the new ribbon underneath, there's another piece on the screen that shows I can have my action pane, which is the bigger view screen that I've been showing. This is your action pane up here. But you can say action pane strip. So if I choose action pane strip, all I'm going to get is the titles. Okay. It's halfway between the old way, and then just menu bar is the old way.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you like the old way, you can change it back.
Yeah. That's right. You know, I've really become quite accustomed to seeing this this ribbon up here. I really like the ribbon. So it's been a creature feature. Yeah, well, it's with anything. It's weird the first day. Brett, does that answer your question in total? Yeah. Okay, thank you for asking. And again, this is a lunch and learn, so you're welcome to ask questions anytime. If I don't know it, I'll just ask Stuart to answer it.
He knows everything.
I don't know everything. Okay. Receivables management, post all, we talked about that. Follow this year-end closing procedure here. And if you have payables management, close the tax module. And so, does anybody use Avalara, by any way? Okay, you guys use. What's your experience with Avalara?
It's made bill tax collection a whole lot easier. You know, we don't have to spend time to calculate how much we need to pay for Idaho and how much we need to pay for Utah and so forth.
It normalizes your address as well. When you set up a customer.
Validate them and make sure that when this girl or this guy is going in and putting an address, it runs a check to say, hey, that's a good address or no, something's not right.
Okay, appreciate that, Bert. So Avalara is a company that writes a tool called AvaTax. And so when you go into GP and you set up your tax tables, if I come over here to cards, sales, customer, and I bring up a customer and I do their tax schedule, you know, when I look up here and in my demo, I've got all kinds of little tax schedules here. That's what most people have done over the years. So Avalara comes in and says, we'll take care of all that. And it's just, all you see is in this tax schedule, AvaTax. That's it. So it's a software as a service environment, but when you put in a new customer, it goes out to their engine in the cloud, which is owned by now ADP, right? ADP bought them. So it goes out, normalizes, validates the address, comes back in. Now here's the most important part. If they make a mistake and you get audited and you get a penalty, they will pay the penalty. That's how confident they are that their tax engine is working. Yeah.
So currently, as you know, we have distributors throughout the nation.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a few direct sale offices where our guy doesn't have to go through in the different counties of Florida or Tennessee and find the tax rate. As we grow in that direct sale, is Avatax or Avalara?
It's Avalara as a company, and Avatax is their software module.
This could be something that could make it a lot easier for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the biggest headaches we've had was collecting sales tax in California because it's state tax and then city tax,
same as Florida.
county tax, and
Denver's the same way.
Friggin' joke.
Okay.
And so yeah, it makes.
Tell me how you really think, Bert.
I wear the emotions on.
No, I mean it's a good question, and the answer to your question, John, is you should have it on there. Now, what they do is they charge like a one-time setup fee of $1,500 to go out onto their servers and get it all set up and put it into GP, and then they charge a transactional fee, and it's really pretty darn cheap, and it's based on your transactions, and that's how they do it. So,
The updates for tax things that we automatically
okay.
happen all the time.
Yeah, John asked for those that are online, how are the tax updates done, and Avalara takes care of that all. That's the cover your backside type of that particular offering. You don't have to worry about it. And not only that, they will file your tax returns for you. Huge. Yes. That's another service they offer. They will file your tax return, your sales tax returns electronically. When they do that, you just send them a check for the amount they send off. Do you use that service?
No, there's additional charge for it, and
Yep.
the biggest problem that we had was getting.
Yep.
So if we go online, we pull up how much we owe, go on the State of Idaho website, State of Utah website, and here you go.
Yeah. It's a really, really nice service. I highly recommend it. If you're doing sales in multi-state, Dave, you could probably use it as well. Yep. Okay, so I think we've handled that question. Let's pop back over here. Again, suggestion. Receivables management is not completely date sensitive. And what I mean by that is in certain areas of the system, it takes data and moves it into a historical transaction, and in other certain areas it won't. But it's got to be that way based upon how receivables functions. So just be aware that there is some date issues there. I don't think anybody will run across it. Have you run across it? You have? Okay. Do you want to share anything on a basis?
I'm not sure. We've got. It kind of depends on the individual.
It really depends on the company.
Yeah.
And what you're doing, but
because not everything gets moved to historical and receivables until you run a routine that moves it.
And that's why at the end of this PowerPoint, I've got names of all the people you can call and specifically ask about your specific environment there. All right, so let's go ahead. Receivables. These are other ones. Year-end closing procedure. That's just a global one. Performing year-end closing after December 31. So some people go into the next year and post. They shouldn't be doing that. Those should stay in batches. By the way, this is really important. You can open your year in the general ledger, and I'll show this to you in a minute. Well, I'll show it to you when I get there, okay? Don't want to get off track here. I put in here, there's a new feature in GP 2013 R2 that lets you, well, let me ask a question. Does anybody know that you can run a historical statement out of Great Plains? By raise a hand. David, you're the only one.
Yeah.
You can reprint old statements. Yeah. Okay.
That's what he's talking about.
A lot of people don't know you can do that. So when you run your statement process in GP at month end, it creates a snapshot of that statement, whatever period you're running that statement for. But you can get a pretty big database if you've got, hundreds of thousands of clients. So with GP 2013 R2, you now have the option of removing outdated statement runs from the reprint window. And so that was so important that I actually put this slide in so you can go ahead and it's got literally the steps on how to remove those historical statements, because this has never been done before until SP2 released.
If you don't, they just stay there forever.
Yeah.
If you don't, yeah, Dave mentions if you don't remove these, they'll stay there forever. Yeah, but I'm not worried about this size being eaten up. But if you have, like I say, a lot of customers, you could eat up this space. And of course, when you're backing up, it's backing up all that information that you may not need to back up. So I wanted you to just know, here's your steps. It's all here, documented, so you can go through that. This is kind of a repeat of all of the modules. It's the same thing here. Year-end updates includes changes for the 1099 interest form. This again is GP 2013 R2. They've added box 10 for market discounts, box 11 for bond premiums, and then they renamed box 13 to be box 15. And this is a form change on your 1099. Okay, so you'd want to get that latest update on your system to make those moves. All right, important things to remember. With 2013 R2, there's new functionality. You can edit 1099s per transaction, literally per transaction. So update the 1099 information utility now has options for not a 1099 vendor tax type per vendor. And then you can print a 1096 summary form. So again, new features with 2013. All right, payables. This is what it does, physically does. And again, I'm not going to read all that. You guys can read that. There's a little note down here. If the amounts are incorrect in the amount since last close view, there is some scripts that let you correct them. I don't know of anybody that I've ever heard of that had that issue, but there you go. Again, post all the transactions. Make sure transactions for the new year are saved, not posted. Okay, so you can continue to do your job, just don't post those. Keep them in a batch. Okay, and then go for your knowledge base here, year-end closing.
So part of what he's saying there is that you want to have a batch basically by year. So don't intermix your years into one batch. You want one batch that's 2015, one batch that's 2014. And then you post 2014s before you do your year-end process.
So you're talking about posting in the general ledger?
No, this is
Or
posting
in
each module.
Yep.
In each module, in the accounts payable, accounts receivable side things.
I've seen people, as I say, I've seen people close their year like in 1 week after the year end is over. So it's not a big deal having to save these in a batch until you're ready to post. Dave, you had a question.
I was just saying, ours dragging
For weeks, yeah.
and you gotta, and it is date sensitive. As far as when you go back to look at sales or whatever, you can select and by invoice date, it's going to report to you later what's right. You're mostly trying to get a close year 1099 purpose, whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
Thereafter, so you got to run a new check batch. You got to
Run it and save it. Don't post it.
Ready? Okay, thank you. Under the 1099 DIV and miscellaneous and 1096, these are alignment changes that have come up. And so, again, that's another reason why you need to do that year-end. The 1099 interest, they used to do 3 up, now it's 2 only. So, if you got forms from prior years, we need to look at that. Important points to remember, follow the KB. Payables managed, again, is what you said, is not fully date sensitive based on the scenario. This one here, 1099 information will not auto-populate if the transactions were not processed as 1099 transactions at the time. Has anybody ever gone out and paid a vendor and then didn't realize that not clicked 1099? You've done it. So you actually now, you can edit the 1099, cards purchase 1099 details and fix it. Okay? All right.
Fixed assets now.
I'm thinking maybe, let's take a lunch break. We've got a big enough audience here today, but I think we need to allow a little more time for lunch. And for those that back in the back, Travis, and so forth, we've got 3 chairs here. So the way we set this up, for those that are sitting behind that don't have a table, just turn your chairs around and use the table that's behind your chair. Okay, for those that have not ever been here before and done a lunch and learn, we file out this door here, and we just come around the hallway, and then lunch is set up on a dining room table out here. And for those that have never been here before and don't know where the facilities are, you just keep going right down the hallway here, and they're out in the hallway over there. So let's use this as a segue to go ahead and have lunch, and we'll just convene back in here and have a nice lunch. Okay? Thank you.
You've done this many times, you should teach us. It's because it's a whole 365 days away, yeah.
Well, and I think you decide kind of a order of which modules to sort of
Yeah.
because some things, I mean, in our case, receivables doesn't affect inventories so much, but, you know, your payables and POs and
Yeah, those
everything that
two
goes
things.
in inventory,
Yeah.
you're trying to,
Yeah.
that's
what kids
think
do.
about.
Yep.
Then maybe,
I don't know, we're not that hard, but gosh.
There's always something though that kind of catches at the year end, right?
Well, it's just the routine, that it's not your daily or weekly or monthly or through the year. It's all once a year, here we got to close, let's see.
How do I do
My memory is that long. I have to rely on Adam. I think we ought to do that, reconcile the GL thing. You know,
Yeah,
well, I check the spreadsheet, you know,
Yeah.
so you don't have to.
I think you should do that on a regular basis.
Just to sort of know if there's anything that is. Well, I check it always manually. I mean, going to say, here's like an 18, look at the amount. If it doesn't match, you got to go run it. You know you're off. I mean, if it matches, you know that you're okay. I mean, do that every month. So a lot of your inventory, AR, AP, I'll fix that. And when we do is to go look at our depreciation, fix that account.
Oh.
whatever.
You could use the 2 forks like chopsticks, I guess, if you wanted to.
So I hear you telling about the interest piece.
Mhm.
We don't use the receivables piece, we have a separate system for that
Oh.
in our business, but I was thinking about it, we do have rents where we own a building and we rent a section of it here and there and collect rents for different things.
Mhm.
We charge interest on those.
Mhm.
People pay late. Would it make sense to set rents up in there if we have 30?
Well, how are you handling rents now?
What?
How are you handling them now? Are you invoicing them through
Just
receivables?
manually. No, just in the spreadsheet, we put a journal entry. So I'm wondering if we loaded all of that in there as a customer with just a monthly billing. I'm wondering if that would, is it enough easier that would be easier than a spreadsheet or not?
Oh, for sure. It's
You
super
think so?
easy. Like, I mean, what he showed you, you basically run the process and it's done. It creates,
Step process and it does it.
and so it creates a batch in receivables that you can then, I think he was kind of mentioning, you can go through and delete different documents if you didn't really want to charge interest to a certain client or whatever. Or you can just post a batch, send out the invoices. It really is.
I mean, I hadn't thought about it until I'm sitting there watching it, saying, how could we use these different ones? Like, it's kind of like overkill probably for the base system that we're doing. It might do it fun.
So, how do you track the rents themselves? Like, is that in a spreadsheet as well? Oh, so you're not tracking any of it in GP.
It's just manual journal entry. Do it yourself.
And so you'd need to obviously start invoicing for the rents out of GP.
Yeah.
But even that, like, depending on how many you have to do, entering them manually wouldn't take very long. If you have to,
You'd have to enter each one, or can you set up a return invoice?
we use Scribe, which is a different program that basically takes data from, it can take data from a CSV, it can take data from another database, it can do whatever, and import it into GP. And so when we're creating our receivables, we have a Scribe job that takes data and dumps it into GP. So you can probably set up something similar to that if you have a lot of them.
Think about it. How is it? Good.
Quite a while.
Yeah. Yeah, just too. Yeah, most of them are. There aren't really very interesting like there are maybe simple. Hard to buy in. Whether it's not that. Yeah. Here.
Sorry.
Everybody have a good place to eat. Melanie?
There was, looks like right now only Andy's online. There was one other. Let's see. Nikki, Caesar. See Melody.
Good. Swami's good too. Mary?
Yeah.
I emailed DJ this morning, asking him who's going to be the contact for Reading Shades. Ask you to do that.
I haven't talked to him about it. I would guess that it would be Sandy, but I don't know for sure.
I haven't seen anything back yet, so Stacy sent that email.
Okay.
So what's your almost 2 years, aren't you, down there now?
Without what?
You're almost 2 years with Central?
No, just the past 2 years.
How do you like it?
I was interested in coming here because last year I went through this a couple of mistakes. I did it myself. Not major ones. The year before, every year I seem to make a mistake somewhere on this, and I learned something.
It's just a lot of stuff and a lot of little things to remember.
You can.
The thing that I always have a hard time remembering, and it's always like last minute, oh crap, we need to hurry and remember, because we're always closing the books after. It's always sometime later in January that we're doing it. And so to change the system date back to 12/31 is always the thing that I'm like getting ready to click the button, and I'm like, wait, what's my date?
That's an important one.
Well, I think we have two sets of fixed assets, but we closed the main one, but we didn't close the tax one.
Oh.
That would go right there. That's one of the, they're tiny mistakes. They don't affect the ledger, but they give you problems in other areas. Credit disposal of assets, like customers. Can't, just weird stuff.
This chicken pot pie is really good. I was complimenting Julie on her cooking. It's easy to turn on the oven. She gets these at Costco and then bakes them.
Yeah, they're really good.
I almost want to do one of those for Thanksgiving. For those that are interested, there's plenty of stuff. Don't hesitate to go back.
Trying to get ready for next week.
What's that?
Trying to get ready for next week.
Yeah. Prepping for next week. This is the primer. Yeah, prime the pump. Got to be out of town all next week on a
deployment. We got a company that's going live 12/31, and they'll have maybe upwards of 100 users.
Wow.
And they took the order in 1st of October. All hands on deck. They've had several change management orders they want to do what you guys are doing down there, Dave, warehouse management with the MC 9190s. They ordered 12 of those last Friday. So 2 of our people are flying off right now to go back to Rapid Rocks, Iowa, and get them all set up and do the warehouse. So it's pretty really big project. And this is phase 1. There's 4 more companies they need to bring on once they get the main one done. So it's kind of an interesting deal. Andy is going to start recording here in about a quarter after. We'll start again. So, if there's anything here that you wanted to see, it's actually being recorded as well. Great. What's going on here?
I don't know.
Let's see. So I lost my mic. Am I gone from the session?
Mm-hmm. Yep, you are.
Are we plugged in over there? That's not the one I want. Back in. Make me the presenter. There you go. Okay. Good. I really like those little pomegranates in the salad.
Mm-hmm.
A little spice to them. Get your dessert?
Nope.
Yep, real quick.
When you first bullet enter, you have to close payables first. You close the year in payables before you run the 1099?
Yeah, because that's what updates the buckets for the 1099 report.
Okay. So basically, you can close payables, close it on the first if you want.
It depends on if you're waiting for any other vendors to send you, invoices that need to be recorded in the closed 2014.
As long as you're willing to approve whatever doesn't get.
Yeah, you can, remember I talked about putting all those payables into a batch for next year?
Yeah.
You can, use that as your journal entry for accrual, if you want. Otherwise, just create the payables batch. It really, every company's different, you know. So if you want it to be on a 1099, you gotta pay it.
Is there going to be a slide on here that shows where you actually go to say, close this payment? And how to close a month?
At the end, I'll show you. Okay.
I've never heard of the, knowledge base of where all these leaks go. So
Yeah.
it's useful for you.
Yeah, I'm really surprised at that because with your prior experience, you should.
Yeah, there's so much of this just other companies I've never used, so I'm gonna have to get that done. That way, how I get set up. There's a little garbage can here. We're going to get your plates off. Go ahead. Put it in there. That's about the best lunch I've had in a long time. Very good.
Well, let's go ahead and Andy's going to start recording from this point forward. So, actually, Brett, can you pop into Andy's room there and just ask him if he's ready to start the recording again? It's right there. Closed door.
Behind you.
Right behind you. Just, sir, you ready to record? Okay. Thank you. Well, that was, you felt that was pretty good lunch today, huh? She did good. What's that?
Her brown bag.
Okay, well, let's get on to the next part of this. When should you, do your fixed asset year-end close? By raise of hands, first of all, who is using fixed assets? Okay, that used to be a module you had to pay for. And so with this new pricing scheme that Microsoft's come up with, it's now included. It used to be a $5,000 module. So if you're not using fixed assets, you certainly should. It's a great little tool. So you run the year-end close right after you've closed payables and right before you close the general ledger. Just as a side note, when should you run your fixed asset depreciation? Anybody got any feedback? When do you run your fixed asset depreciation?
Last day of the month.
Okay, Stuart said something, which is last day of the month.
Before you close your period, you're trying to do your monthly period. It doesn't matter.
I'm going to tell you something right now. It doesn't need to be done on the last day of the month. That's old stuff. You can run your depreciation anytime you want during the month. You just have to run it consistently. You can run your depreciation on the 15th of the month and post it. As long as it's the 15th of the month every month, that doesn't mess up your depreciation.
Except when you buy that new asset on the 30th of March,
Yeah, I mean, literally, I grew up saying you got to run your fixed asset depreciation on the last day of the month. And, Stuart and I are in the same.
We're on the same page that way.
Same. But it doesn't need to be done. As long as it's consistent each and every month, I would say run it on the 15th or somewhere in the middle of the month. And take that out of your month-end close. Just take one of those little check marks out of something you had to do to close the month. Just FYI, that's just another little tidbit of knowledge. Year-end update for fixed assets. They've got this luxury auto maximum depreciation deduction amount that's been put in the system. So there's I put a hyperlink in here to the government website that lets you go out. And by the way, some of you are CFOs, some are controllers. IRS 179 is still in place. The government gives you credit. Are you taking advantage of that? That's the question. By a raise of hands, who knows what IRS 179 is? Okay. When you go back, make a note on your sheet here. Just look up IRS 179 for 2014. I think it's $500,000 this year. And that's accelerated depreciation. So the government basically will pay for about 28% of your purchase of anything through 2014, if you'll take advantage of that. So, check it out. That's what I'm saying. Right now, I don't know what the regs are, but go to IRS 179, look it up, Google it, and see what the latest is. Then on 2013 R2, Microsoft GP has a historical reporting capability. Inside GP right now, you can do a historical inventory trial balance. It's just a report that takes a long time, and you can run that. But now you can do a historical reporting on other years. But another thing, and I've got a slide here that shows that you can actually reverse. If you do a year-end close and you do it wrong, with GP 2013 R2, they will actually let you reverse that. And I'll show that to you in the general ledger slide. All right. We talked about the luxury auto deduction there. This, basically, the year-end close for fixed assets will move all of the information into historical. And you must close fixed assets, or your calendar for the next year will not run correctly. There's a fixed asset calendar that's independent of your general ledger calendar, and so that has to be done. Your depreciation amount is cleared in the current year and pushed over into a bucket. Let me just pop back over here. So when you're doing inquiry on fixed assets under what they call the book compare, or we'll just do the book compare. Wes was talking about he's got several books in his depreciation. I've got 3, but you can have others. There's no limit to 3. There's really no limit to the books. But you've got your internal, people who use an internal to, when I was a CFO, I actually depreciated my assets internally quicker than I did on the IRS guidelines. And the reason I did that from a standpoint of electronic equipment, the guidelines were 60 months for the feds, and I wanted to get them out of there in 36 months. So you've got an internal, you got your alternative minimum tax, and then your federal books. And so you can pull up an asset, and when you look at this, you can see here my year-to-date depreciation. When you do the year-end close, it clears that bucket and pushes it all over down into the life-to-date bucket. That's what that slide was showing you there. So, and for those that don't know, if you do your lookups here, you can actually drill to a transaction, and it'll show you the date and time, what GL account number. Once you do the fixed asset depreciation, it'll fill this financial table here. So back over to this. I think we've done all that. I've actually got one here. Gee, does that show printed? Is my Premier? Did it come out okay?
The current fiscal year's increased for each
I should have. Let me just exit out of here for a sec, because let me just move this up. So, the current fiscal year is increased for each closed book.
I printed out fine.
Oh, it printed out fine. Okay, good. All right, so let's go on to the next one here. I mentioned this already, but you must appreciate all assets through the last day of the current fixed asset year before you close the year. It's got to be run. Now, this is where I mentioned you can depreciate your assets anytime you want, but this one's where you've got to go through the...
That's the year-end one, and it has to be on the last day of the year. Yeah.
Even if you are depreciating on the 15th of the month.
Yeah, it's just, it updates that calendar.
Yeah.
It's on a calendar year. Okay. So again, follow the steps, make a backup, follow the steps in here, and you'll be just fine. Okay. And we flipped over to general ledger now. actually, just throw me one of those, Jeff. Thank you.
Good talk, good catch.
There you go. Okay. I mentioned this earlier. Reverse historical year button in year-end closing window. If you go into this GP system and you do a year-end close and you mess it up, you can reverse it now and start over. So,
however, don't do it if the failed year-end close failed, if it didn't complete.
yeah, and why would they do that? Why would they say don't do that? If the year-end close goes 30% through, and all of a sudden it hangs up, you lost connectivity, something happens, you don't want to reverse that historical transaction. Restore and then start over. Back up. Okay.
Real important reason to do backups.
This is really quite simple. It is the last step in closing your books. And so I made a note here. It should be done after you've completed the year-end close for all the other modules. It's straightforward. So the year-end close in the general ledger closes all your P&L accounts into the retained earnings account. Now, let's see, Travis, you've got multiple companies, right? So when you do that, if you set your retained earnings account to the entity itself when you close, okay. David, you've got multiple entities. I don't think you do. It's just one. Okay, let me just pop over here for a sec. Inside of GP, under Tools, Setup, Finance, under General Ledger, there's a section here. It says Close to Divisional Account Segments. So some people have separate databases, and so everything I've been talking about here today, if you have separate databases, separate companies where you're logging in and logging out, then you've got to run these year-end processes in each database. But if you keep everything in one database, so you have a divisional segment, when you're closing the year-end and you've marked Close to Divisional Account, this Close to Divisional Account segment, you're going to say, well, which one do I want to close to? And you can just choose one. So each and every segment, if this said, instead of department, it says company ID, for instance, then it's going to close the retained earnings account specific to that entity by using this Close to Divisional Account segment. So one complete year-end close across all companies. Every single entity will have a retained earnings account, and this is where you identify it and put it in here. It's notes for those that have multi-companies set up. All right.
Over the years, one of the things that V's always encouraged us to do is to make sure you go out and look at the accounts that were set up as balance sheet accounts, those that were set up as income accounts. If you set up an account that's supposed to be a balance sheet and it got put as an income account, you'll have kind of a mess when you close your year. So prior to closing the year, go out and look at all the accounts and make sure that they are the right type of account for closing.
Somebody has a little smart list that they gave us.
Yes.
Terry or somebody
Yeah.
Ed or somebody.
Ed, I think, has a
Nice
smart list.
Yep. Good point, Stuart. So under Financial, under Accounts, this is your standard Smart List Designer now that comes with 2013 and R2. So right now, here's your posting type. Okay. If you find a balance sheet account that is set to be income statement there, change it before you do your year-end close. Yes. Very important. Now, that being said, I've got a little slide in here that talks about people that don't do that, and you can go back and fix it, but it's a knowledge base. But it's a good point, a good first step.
So wouldn't that sort of be discovered as the months have gone on?
Should be, but sometimes they aren't.
Well, it gets back to this.
It's something you need to look at.
John, somebody could come in here and they could go, okay, look, I don't know what that means, so I'll just change that. That's all it takes. So, just make sure. Good thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay. Year-end closes all P&L into the retained earnings, leaving the P&L accounts with a zero balance at the beginning of the new year. I mean, straightforward. All balance sheets are updated with the beginning balance for the new year, and then the retained earning accounts, I just talked about that. So there's that. So the retained earning account should be the only account that has a change. All the others go to zero. This is something for people that are in the technical area. The GL 2000 and 3000 tables are what are updated in the system. The fiscal period tables are updated. Now, I want to stop here for a sec. When you go through and you go tools, setup, and you go to company and you go to fiscal periods here, a lot of people, and I'm just kind of amazed that they do this, it says period 1, period 2, period 3, period 4. Okay? Let's see who's guilty. Raise your hands if that's what your system says. Okay, nobody's guilty here. But I want to just show you why. If you come along here and you want to create under your rules, setup, company, and fiscal periods, if you want to create a new one, you'll just come here and say, I want to create a new one for 2019. So 2019. You don't have to wait to the end of the year to do this. You can do it anytime. So I can come along and create, and here's my date. It picked up 2019. It's 12 periods, and I just hit calculate. So when I'm done doing this, you'll see it says period 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what a lot of people default. So just go in here and type in January, February, March, April, May. The reason for that, of course, is it'll come out on your financial statements. It's for June. Period ended June instead of period ended period 6. Okay. So just FYI there. Piece of cake. And I'm done. That's how easy it is to open your next year. You can do it tomorrow. You can do it today when you go back. Okay. Then there's another feature in 2013 R2. When you're in R2, you can keep inactive accounts. When you do the year-end close, there's a little checkbox that says keep inactive accounts, because the standard procedure in Great Plains when you close your year is to remove inactive accounts. It's always been that way. But for budgeting purposes, you may go out and open a new GL account number, and the system will just wipe it out when you do year-end close. So you don't want to do that. So now there's an option, retain inactive accounts. Okay. This one here is nothing. Nobody's here is using analytical accounting, I assume. Correct? So we won't worry about that. Year-end close procedure for AA is here if this is going out to other people as well, and there are other people that do. By the way, just who knows what analytical accounting is? Nobody? You should be using it extensively. Okay. He's a government agency, so AA was actually designed for governmental entities. Analytical accounting is really a nice tool for other entities as well. It adds a transactional dimension. I'll give you an example verbally here. Let's just say you had an account called auto expense, but you had 12 cars, and you wanted to track the, well, this applies to Bert, okay? You've got vans, okay? So you've got an account called van expense, so you got 20 vans. You want to track the cost of the maintenance of each van. Analytical accounting, when you click it on, will add a transactional dimension called van 1, van 2, van 3, van 4. Now you can set up a GL account number to require a person in AP to select the van that bill came in for. Make sense? So every single GL account number you have, you can set up to require a transactional dimension be associated with that. And now with Management Reporter, you can now report. So instead of just having an account called 4500 auto expense, it's going to be 4500, and then you're going to have that next level. You want to
Van 3.
it
will break it down that way.
Break it down in quite extensive detail. So you all own analytical accounting as of GP 2010.
Will that carry over into Management Reporter to be able to report
Yes.
management down to that level?
Yeah. For those that are online, he was just saying, if I have analytical accounting, will it go into Management Reporter? And the answer is absolutely yes. Okay.
Could that be used to take a repairs and maintenance account and just have a sub-breakdown
Yes.
of that?
Absolutely. His question was,
Exactly right.
if I had a maintenance and repair account, can I use that to do, detailed breakdown? That's exactly what it's for. And you may only have 3 or 4 accounts that you want to have that much detail in. So yeah, just get with Stuart. He'll help you turn it on and start reporting in more detail. Analytical accounting. Okay.
A little more to do it because you have to kind of set up the dimensions that you want to record in too. So
again, there's not anybody here, but if you do, there's a little statement here. Make sure analytical accounting is installed and enabled on the workstation where GL is being closed.
So that's done before you close your GL.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, one other thing. This last note here under note, adjusting entries can be made in the most recent closed year. When you go into GP, Tools, Setup, Finance, General Ledger, there's another setting here, right there. It's called Posting to History. You should have that marked, okay? So what that does, if you allow posting to history, you can make a journal entry into a closed year. You can have a prior year, you can have a closed year and a current year open at the same time, basically. So I'll show you what that means right now. If I allow posting to history, and I make a journal entry inside the system, all right. I'm in, my demo date is in 2017. So what's going to happen, if it's a historical year, this screen is going to be all marked, all closed as you've gone through the year. But when you close it with a GL year-end close function, it's going to click this little box up here. I can't do it just by clicking it. It has to be a year-end close. So it marks that. So that's a historical year. So if you have that other one marked I just showed you a minute ago, I can come in here and make a journal entry in the closed historical year and post it, and the system will automatically make a journal entry in the closed year, update your retained earnings, and update retained earnings into the current year that's open. It's a nice little feature.
Rather have to go back up, open the year up.
John, what you're actually doing is you're opening the year because you did this right here.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah. So any questions on that?
If it's a historical year and you
Can't.
select the financial column right here in December, but on the GL setup, you have it marked that you cannot post to a closed period, you still
It won't make any difference.
Right?
So Mary, I think the people online, you were close enough, they heard that. So yeah, that's a good point. All right, so I'll open those all because that's my demo and I can't post anything.
Go back and show where that box is checked.
Sure. Tools, Setup, Finance, General Ledger.
There it is.
Right there. Okay.
Now remember, that's one historical year back, not two.
Right, yeah.
If they have audit entries,
You can do that.
you are audit like in March.
Yep.
So Don asked the question, and this is really what it's for. Don mentioned, for audit purposes, can we do that? And that's exactly what it's for. You can go on, close your year, close it within the first week, and have that marked, allow posting to history, you're good to go. Because you're good to go. So, yeah, that'll allow them, and that's, again, why we don't need a 13th period for government entities. They often said we need to put everything in that 13th period so we can do that. You don't need that with GP. Okay.
It is.
But as long as your fiscal periods are closed, it won't post, right?
Two questions here. Okay. The point is, John brings up a really good point here. Somebody could go in there not knowing what they were doing and make an inappropriate entry. That screen that I just showed you, okay, we're back over here, Tools, Setup, Finance, General Ledger. There is security inside of GP that only 1 or 2 people should have access to that screen.
Well, I know I'm getting there, but once you open it, anybody can make a journal entry.
Go back to go back to the fiscal calendar too. If you can protect it, yeah. Go back to
Yeah, you got the
16.
2
Yeah.
places.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, and you know what, it's true, but
Then you still gotta come back.
I hate to say it, but if,
Unclick it and-
yeah, you gotta go back and recheck it once you post, so you can stop that. But I don't, it's a valid concern, but if you do that,
You only have December open though in financials. It's not too bad. It does.
It is easy to click that box.
yeah. I don't, it's a valid concern, but I think the person that has access to that screen better know what he's doing, he or she's doing.
That's what
You
that's what his
restrict it.
point is. Yeah, that's exactly what his point is. Make sure they don't have. No, it isn't open to everybody.
Yeah. Okay, we are almost done with GL. I got 3 things I want to show you as far as training at the end of this session, so we'll get through with this in a second here. Again, restore. Make sure you have, make a restorable backup. There's another really important thing here. This is probably as important as anything I could tell you today. When the system does a year-end close, we need to make sure you have enough free space. And this is where most people fail. They'll start a process. If you've got a maybe you got a 2 terabyte database that's huge, you got to have 2 terabyte space to do it again. Basically, you got to double your space. Okay, make sure you got enough room on your server to do your year-end close. I should probably highlight that in green as well. Okay, perform the year-end at the server. Don't do it on a workstation. Obviously, workstations have connectivity, and maybe we've had some issues here with our wireless hubs. They go out, do it at the server. Okay. Everybody has to be out of GP when you do it, so that's a weekend job, obviously. This has been a historical issue where the year-end routine does appear to hang about 50%. But with GP 2013 R2, they put in a progress bar. So it just goes along the bottom, and it shows up where you're at.
You got to just let it run.
Just let it run. Yeah.
Kind of keep going.
All right. Here are a bunch of other, to set up an adjusting period. We just went through that. I just showed that to you. How to use divisional, I showed that to you. We talked about changing the posting type. Retained earnings count not found. That's going to come up when you tried to do the divisional and you haven't set that little checkbox. It lets you fix that. I think that pretty well covers.
Unit accounts is one that's mentioned there. I don't know how many of you use unit accounts. I've got one client that's tracking their gallons of gasoline sold, and those need to be updated at the year end. That's one of those routines there, how to take care of the unit account.
By the way, I think that's a good segue. Maybe we ought to talk about that. Who uses unit accounts in GP? Travis, you're doing per patient day type thing. You got to track all that, right?
He does.
And you do too. Yeah. If you're not using unit accounts, you're only using GP for a partial of what it can do for you. For those that don't know, under cards, finance, you've got unit accounts right there. And so these are statistics. They're one-sided transactions as well. Because when you make a journal entry or you post from, in his case here, gasoline pumps, we've got gallons, you post that in, it's a one-sided transaction. So once an account has been defined as a unit account, you can go in and put a journal entry in against it or import it in from other systems. So the way you can use unit accounts is under cards, under finance, you've got fixed and variable allocations that are here. Who has used fixed allocations? The 2 healthcare companies. Okay. This is a really neat tool because from an accounts payable, I'll give you an example. This is real life. A client had a medical bill from Intermountain Healthcare for all of their employees for their healthcare
costs individually, listed out. And there's family, and then there's single, and you know how that all goes. Well, instead of making a payables entry on the paycheck that they send in about healthcare, they would pay the bill to a clearing account, okay? Or they would pay it in such a way that they would use a fixed allocation account. So I'll talk about both because this is all tied into general ledger. So here's an account that's called utilities expense. So if the AP clerk coded the transaction to 6190, the GL system would automatically break it out based upon what you've put here. So you don't have to sit there and have your AP clerk, break out, like with the medical bill, break out all the expenses through 150 departments. So that's the fixed allocation methodology at the general ledger level. Over here, you've got cards, finance, and you've got variable. Now, variable is a little more powerful because you're using what they call breakdown accounts. If I use this Department 100, my breakdown account is this account number that I've got in here. That, if I look into it, happens to be square footage admin. So you guys don't have to do Medicare cost reports.
We don't have one?
Medicare cost reports? Travis, you do Medicare cost reports. Okay, this is where this comes into play. So this breakdown can be statistical or it can be dollars, either one. So I can put multiple accounts in my breakdown account here and associate that with this account. So just as a high-level message here, because I have multiple breakdown accounts, the system will go out and calculate these percentages for you. Okay, that's all I'm telling you. That's really the message here. So therefore, when you go to post a variable payables transaction, finance variable, you look at the activity here, year to date, or activity for the transaction in the month that you're in. So the GP system will go back and look at all of your breakdown accounts, calculate the split, the variable, and then it'll just automatically post that as GL when you post your payables transaction. Okay?
Why is there space for multiple breakdown accounts there within one?
Okay. For those that are online, I won't be able to show this, but, well, you know what? Let me do it with a spreadsheet. I will be able to show this. His question is, why are there multiple options to have, okay, let me, you got a Department 100, and over here on this side, you're going to have 100 dash 2100 and 100 dash 2200, 100 dash 2300. I'm going to associate these values. These are my dollars, so I'm going to put 500, 500, and 500. So this totals, let's make it easy and put one more here. And do this. So if you look at that, I've got a sum right here of $2,000. So I'm just making the calculations easy so I can show this. So I've said here under 200, I have 200, but I'm only going to look at one account, and I might have 1,000 in that one. Okay, you can continue the thing here, and so forth. So I'm going to put 1,000 there. Whoops. Let's just make it easy. So maybe that's what the activity is year to date. So then I've got this one here, and I've got this one here. So what have I got? In total here, this is all being done behind the scenes with GP. If you understand this, I think you could really take advantage of it. So I've got $4,000 there of expense year to date through the month. So what have we got for a percentage here? Plus that divided by this. So it's calculating 50% there, right? So let's just copy. Well, that's not. Yeah, I can do that. Copy this here, and it'll give me an error, but I can change it. So I want to do an absolute. You know what? Let me do it quicker this way. You see where I'm going? Okay. So the system. Let's see. I want to lock the 11. Anyway, All right, rather than mess with formulas, you get it. This is 50%, and this is 0.25, and this is 0.25, right? So GP does all those calculations in the background, and so I'm going to make this like that. All right. So then, when somebody comes along and has a bill for $10,000, and they post it to that variable account, it's going to use these percentages to break that out to those three departments. Straightforward? Got it? Okay, there you go. So, all right. We're going to wrap up on some really cool things here now. This is your gotcha takeaway for today. GP 2013 R2 added the capability of doing what they call a copy and paste into the system. Do you use it?
Well, we haven't
upgraded
upgraded R2 yet, but I'm totally excited about it.
Okay. So in my demo today, I've got transactions, financial, and I'll just do a journal entry, and I'll have this up. Now, for demo purposes, I created a spreadsheet. Let's go File, Open. Oops, sorry. Take it up. One, there it is. Okay. So with this new copy-paste feature, you just have to have 4 columns identified in a spreadsheet. There they are. You've seen it 1,000 times if you've been in GP. So you notice here in my description, I've got comments line 1, 2, 3, 4, down through 12. So let's just make this Mary's stuff and leave its stuff. I'm just showing this isn't smoke and mirrors here. So, okay, what you do is you just come down and copy. Just hit your copy just like you normally would. And you're in GP. In your journal entry there. So you put a descriptor in, whatever it is, right? And hit your paste button. There you go. If I come down here and look at Mary's stuff, David's stuff. Give me a wahoo. That's well, okay. Yeah, good question. If I go back over to my Excel spreadsheet that I used,
Or you titled it.
see, it always is on this line here. You can actually, if you choose, okay, let's do it again.
You need to have those column titles in order for it to know.
Yeah, that's all it needs is those titles. So, yep. So, you see the paste is gone. That journal entry is already gone, so I got to post it. Let's delete this. And description. There. And paste. Mary. Okay. I think that's sweet. I've asked for this for years, and now it's Microsoft stuff. Okay. We got 5 more minutes, and we'll turn you loose here. I said at the end of the session I would come in and did the 6 tasks. Well, okay. Checklist. Okay. Does anybody know how to use the routine checklist inside of GP? Raise your hands. You used it. How effective is it for you to use it?
Well, sometimes for batch recovery, you have to use it.
Okay, maybe we're talking about different things.
That might be that.
Yeah. In each of your modules, tools, setup, it's under routines and financial. You've got a checklist right there. Okay. Now this applies everywhere inside GP. Tools, routines, and then you got these checklists in all of the sub-modules. So under the general ledger checklist, I've got bank rec, general ledger. You can add, you see it says reconcile to the GL. When you put these in here, you can actually double-click on them, and it'll take you to where you need to go. So I guess the message I'm trying to tell you here is real-life scenario, as CFO that worked for a resort, and her mother died. She had to go to the funeral, but she had nobody else to close her system. So she went in here and used this GL period end routine in a checkoff list. Now watch. Okay, I can do it for daily, payday, period end, month, quarter, fiscal year. You set up each one of these and you set the routines here. So that says reconcile, but I can add two, and when you come over here, you call it the routine, and then you specifically go out and it can be an external task. So if you have a medical billing solution, you want to bring in some kind of statistical information, and it's in a certain place in your other system, point it to the external task and make it a routine here. This just simplifies your month-end close for the people you have to delegate activities to, okay? And again, this is everywhere you go throughout the system. So it could be a macro. Now that being said, does anybody know how to do a macro inside a GP? Raise a hand. Nobody? Oh my goodness. Okay, we're going to we got two more things then, and I'll turn you loose. Okay, you can go in, excuse me, and record a macro. So, tools, macro, record. It's here. It's just part of your system. So once you hit the record, I'll say record payables transactions. And I'm just going to do this real quick to get through this so I can turn you loose. Put that on my desktop and hit save. The minute I hit save, it's now recording everything I do in Grapevines. So don't go save and then forget you turned on the macro. Okay. So I'll go to transactions. I'll go to purchasing. I'll go to transaction entry. And again, this is just an example of what you can do. With the macros, you can put pauses in, and when you pause, it says enter data. So I'm going to do a whole big one here just at once.
Change like a date entry.
Yeah. I could go create a batch. Okay. We'll just pull in this one. We'll go pull a vendor. And we'll put in some document here. We'll put some amount down here. And basically I could hit print check and it will print. I don't want to go that far. Let's just stop there at that point. So I'm going to save, exit, come back, tools, macro, and you see here, suspend recording or pause or stop or insert a pause. So there's more features here than you really meets the eye. So I'm going to stop the record. So now I go tools, macro, and I play. And I'll go get it from my desktop. And there it is. Open. Okay. I got far enough that I just want to show you what a macro will do. So if you're doing agings or anything inside the system, and you can create a macro. Now we circle back over to the routine. This one here, tools, setup. I'm sorry, tools, routine. And we went to financial, and I had my checklist. You notice here, I can add a macro to run something here and choose it. And when I do the macro, I go out and find it. Okay. And hit OK. So run the macro, and it will go through and run it again. Okay? I stored it on my desktop.
He just put it on his desktop.
But I would
You can
suggest
put it out in a set of file someplace so that everybody. Yeah.
I would put this macro inside the GP backup area where you're backing up every day. Bert, you had a question?
An example of when somebody might use that?
Well, I can kind of point it back to Travis here. One of the macros might be you want to run a macro, run out, go into another accounting system, do something, come back, something that's repetitive, and do it and come back and get a report based upon that. It can be used, a macro can be used basically anywhere you want. John.
I can use that macro for my monthly bills, like inventory, receivables, payables, other assets, deposits in.
It could be your entire yellow brick road for your.
Yeah.
Okay. That's it for today. We appreciate you guys coming and taking the time.
Any questions?
There's a little blog here, and when I send this to you electronically, the blog has pretty much everything I talked about today in one central repository. Yes.
Just on the actual button, click close, is that just...
Oh.
You say now I'm closed, is that just simply putting all those check boxes in, or do you get that mass closed?
You're in closing, right?
You're in closing.
Then you've done everything, now you need to actually close out.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it will tell you the last date that it was closed.
This is the one. This has been added to with SB2, maintaining active accounts. You'd probably want to check that. And basically, you just close your year. Now, I can't do that because it just wipes out my entire, I'd have to reinstall Great Plains. Okay, here's the path. Here's the question. How do you do your year-end close? Tools, routines, financial, year-end close. So that's going to be the same thing with tools, routines, sales. Tools, routines, inventory. Same thing. Okay?
Hey, I got a question for you. If you go to financial, your periods, physical periods, go your tools,
Okay, you're talking about this one here?
company, physical periods. When we have, for us, because our year end is June 30th, that triggers always off of your system date. So if I go in there September 2014, I've already closed my 2014 year. It still takes me into the 2014 year.
Yes, that's
I
right.
hate that.
You're right.
Well, write up a suggestion so it'll come out in R3.
It should say, put this as your primary year or something. But I always have to go up and change the year and go back to the year I'm really in. For
I hear you.
that half a year.
That's because you're on a
Fiscal year.
Yeah. Finally,
I was like, how come I can't ever go into that? I finally figured this one.
That's the nature of the
yeah.
you're in there.
There's a couple of
Maybe
things.
you'd have a great answer for that.
I don't have a great answer for that. A couple of other slides here at the end of your presentation. They're specific when you do searches on the blog site. These are the titles of the search topics that you'd be looking for if you go to that level. So, and then last but not least, there's our contacts. And I said I would, for those that want this, let me just come over here. I should just be able to insert a box, text box. Oh, that's interesting. What let me do? Let's just do it here.
Yeah.
You guys want to just do this? I will take this down. Most of you have got my email address, so margillespie@premiercomputing.com. And there you go. Again, we're done. Thank you. This was a lot of fun. I haven't done this for months, and so I've enjoyed it.